I've released a couple of videos talking about it, but I suppose I should go ahead and make a standalone video instead of a reaction to like what other people are doing or complaining about what some other YouTubers said or complaining about some subreddit that was irrelevant even back in 2014, at the height of Gamergate, you know, looking at you, Kotaku in action. Like, there are a lot of people out there trying desperately to pretend that Princess Peach is woke. Okay, this is nothing new. This has been happening ever since the movie got announced, right? Like ever since that, like people started like learned it was like coming from a Western studio. They were just like they're gonna fuck up everything. They're gonna fuck it up. They're gonna fuck it up. They're gonna make it woke. They're gonna make Peach a girl boss who does everything, and this. It's gonna be ruined. Nintendo's gonna go woke. Like that was the narrative from the onset, right? That was the narrative from the onset, right? And even now that the movie is out, now that we can see that it hasn't directly affected the games, now the movie itself wasn't woke at all, and that the movie is actually pretty popular, and people actually like the portrayal of Peach. When the worst thing you can say is that, like, oh, she doesn't look exactly like the games, you have a problem, right? Like, it's not that big of a deal, right? Uh, we've reached the point now where there are people trying to pretend that because the movie was such a big success and because it was from a Western studio, you're gonna see Nintendo like become increasingly westernized and becoming increasingly woke. Right? It's the same thing they were doing before the movie came out, but they've just adjusted the dates a little bit. They've just adjusted the narrative, right? It is Princess Peach being woke is like on par with the Switch 2 rumors at this point. Like it is just it's embarrassing, all right? No matter what Nintendo does, no matter what they do, no matter what game they release or announce, no matter like this game they're talking about Princess Peach, like there's a costume called Peach, right? Where she's just baking a cake, where she's like baking, like the most feminine thing in the like you're gonna look at that game and you're gonna try and call it woke. Okay? You're gonna look at like this game where she's just going around like on a stage in this play, right? Fighting the bad guys. Like you're gonna look at this, like her putting on like cute costumes and like fighting monsters. Like you're gonna look at this game and you're gonna call it woke just because the box art has a slightly different expression, right? You're gonna look at this game and you're gonna call it woke, right? You're gonna do anything you possibly can. I actually earlier today I watched that like Clownfish TV video where they're like trying to complain about this. They're trying to find something to complain about, and all they could do was just segue into talking about other topics. Talking about Mega Man 2's box art, talking about Kirby, talking about Spider-Man 2 and the Mary Jane thing, which I think are like the Mary Jane thing is interesting because it really does feel as if like Sony gets so much more wrong. Like they actively screw up, like when it comes to like the creative process and their games and their releases and their promotional material and like the character models. There are so many things to talk about when it comes to Spider-Man, The Last of Us, God of War, Ragnarok, but it all gets ignored in favor of like pretending there's some major controversy about Princess Peach, right? Like it all just gets brushed aside in order to continue the narrative that the Mario movie is woke, right? Like that is the narrative at this point is that like PlayStation is just going to get ignored while Nintendo gets all this flack for basically nothing. And it's not just Princess Peach, obviously. Like I see a lot of people like slam Fire Emblem Engage. I see a lot of people like try to go after Tears of the Kingdom. I see a lot of people try to go after Pikmin 4. I see a lot of people like try to go after Advance Wars. Like Cereza and the Lost Demon, right? Like Bayonetta 3, right? There was basically a big push among basically everyone to try and convince us that like Nintendo is woke now, all right? Right, like No More Heroes 3 got that a lot. I remember Metroid Dread, like Metroid Prime Remastered, right? Like Samus takes her helmet off at the ending, and ooh, she's not attractive because she wasn't attractive in the original release. Apparently, that's an SJW conspiracy too, right? That I do think this needs to be said is that and I do think this is going to be my point going forward is that like a lot of these clowns, Clownfish TV, the clowns of the ocean, right? A lot of these clowns are worse than the SJWs they cover, right? Like a lot of them seem to be grifting a ton of money from conservatives and from others, right? They're like hyping up their own mediocre products and like just trying desperately to rail on like projects that didn't do anything wrong, right? It's not just Princess Peach Showtime. It's like a handful of like major Nintendo games that these people have tried to go after, and yeah, I've had enough of it. Like the Princess Peach thing was the last straw. Like I already wasn't happy about it, like going into the movie and seeing people like try and do their thing, doing their like concern trolling thing, like oh it's gonna be bad, guys. She's gonna be woke. She's a girl boss. Like it was so painfully forced. Even in that like early stage where we're looking at the trailer, oh look at her, she's in a bike suit. Who cares? Like you see people like over analyzing her lines and stuff like that. You see people like pretend as if like she was like the real protagonist of the movie. I've seen Angry Joe do that. Like you see people like try and paint this narrative that the character is being mishandled, that the brand is being mishandled, and that really couldn't be further than the truth, right? I'm really curious if these guys are going to double down on this when Princess Peach Showtime actually comes out, right? I'm really curious if we're going to see any more like of this damage control and these conspiracies because I feel like they're going to have to do something, right? Like this isn't going to be a Tokyo Mirage Sessions where they can pretend that because of the changes they made in localization, the game bombed, right? Like this game is presumably going to be highly successful, right? Like what are they going to do? Say that like the success of Princess Peach Showtime is going to like feminize Nintendo? Like Peach was already popular before the game, bro. Like she's an iconic video game character at this point. Even if like the general culture doesn't want to admit it, right? Like I think people like are really really reaching to try to find woke conspiracies to make about Nintendo specifically, right? Like these guys are so used to just like steamrolling Marvel, DC, like the big Hollywood companies, studios, major independent comics, Netflix. Like they're so like familiar. They're so used to like steamrolling really easy targets, people who actually lean into this kind of woke stuff that going after Nintendo, um, like they think they can just do that. They think they can just get away with it because they've built up so much goodwill by going after like actually woke products. Like it's disgusting. It's deplorable. So I would like to like officially come out and like disavow Comicsgate, disavow Clownfish TV, disavow Raging Golden Eagle, disavow like Nick Rekieta for like enabling a ton of these people, like disavowing Drexel because he's a pedophile, like uh a groomer, excuse me. He waited until she was legal. Um Let me amend my statement. He was a groomer, not a pedo. Going by what we know of the situation. Um, you know, I'm disavowing niche gamer, right? For like trying to pass off like innocuous Japanese inner Tutran comments as being like angry at like the game. I'm disavowing Kotaku in action. I'm disavowing all of these communities that all these people that think they can come out and say whatever they want about Nintendo with no repercussions. Right? Like I am sick and tired of seeing this, okay? It is downright ridiculous. Princess Peach is perfectly fine the way she is.